What's going on, guys? It's Mike from Maximum PSI. We are an independent BMW shop specializing in service and performance. We've been turbocharging BMW since 2006, and we work out of our retail location, Beamer Clinic in South Amboy, New Jersey. We've got experience drag racing, E36 records, E46 records, F80 records, and our latest car that we purchased was a 2022 BMW M4. It's a G82 model, and all-wheel drive, auto transmission, and our goal was to make it the fastest BMW in the world. We took this car on October 13th to Maple Grove, Pennsylvania for an event, Bimmers vs. the World, put together by Bimmers United. Goal for the event was just to run an 8-second pass. Simple enough, what could go wrong? Have our 2022 G82 M4. This was originally my business partner's personal car that we decided we were going to turn into a shop car. Originally, car made 770 wheel horsepower with the stock motor, stock turbos, stock transmission, and that was amazing. It was super fast, super fun, and it blew up super quick. I snapped the turbo shaft in half. We were running a ton of boost on these tiny twins, and it dumped all the oil in the system, and car was out of commission. Immediately come up with a game plan. What are we doing? Let's make 1200 horsepower with the car. So we put together custom twin setup, big full frame twins. No one else was doing it at the time. Everyone else was trying to put singles on. Built motor, port work, you name it. And trying to figure out what we were gonna do to keep everything sealed where we don't have head gasket issues, etc. And everything went together, and this was now going back about 2 years. We had the car together with the full frame twin setup, took it out to impact, and we kind of shook it down in its infancy. Anyway, other people started going faster and got to the point where it's like, hey, we can either try and keep on twisting this twin setup up more and more, or we got to make a judgment call, and that's exactly what we did. We decided to pull the big twins off, and we put a 80mm single setup, dock race header, big precision turbo, and it was the best thing that I could have done at the time, because in a matter of 6 dyno pulls, we went from struggling to get past 1300 horsepower to immediately making 1500 plus horsepower. Now we got all this power, let's take it to the track.
You on my mind a lot, don't need no time watch. I don't know how I got you in my pocket spot. Yeah, that's babe, need you every day. You like my oxygen, make it seem like the barging down. Got my heart no barging in, from the bed to the floor to the couch. Might wake the neighbors up, break you in then break you out. In the end we gon' make a child, then we gon' hit the shower. Part 2 we don't need no pause. You with Misty, we gon' get tipsy, don't need a power shot.
Copy my steel, face the fact that ain't no cap, I'm real. Ain't no cap, I'm real. The plastic bars tryna copy my steel. Copy my steel, face the fact that ain't no.
So there I am, all suited up in my gear, sitting in the staging lanes, waiting to be called to action. Plan was to just run a nice conservative A to B pass. We had a bunch of power still, 1300-ish wheel horsepower probably, and the cars in front of me start moving, and it's game time. I go to hit the start button, and a whole lot of nothing. Just click. Immediately, panic mode. Did I leave something on? Did I kill the battery? Check some things, turn lights on, flip switches on and off, nothing's working. I start screaming out the window at all my guys. They had just finished setting tire pressures. Like, we gotta figure out what's up. Immediately, belts off, I'm hopping out of the car, and the whole team springs to action to figure out what's going on.
I'm Chris, one of the lead techs over at Beamer Clinic and Maximum PSI. Work on this race car most of the time. It's just getting everything set up for when Mike comes back from his first run. Gives me a call, car's not starting. Awesome. Best thing that I can possibly hear at that point in time, scrambling around, trying to get everybody sorted out as to where we're gonna go and what we're gonna do about it. So we're stuck in the staging lane. It's a BMW, you can't put them in neutral, it's stuck in park. go over, start grabbing some tools, bring the truck over, bring the jacks over, getting yelled at by the track officials for jacking the car up on the ground over in the staging lanes where you really shouldn't be, and crawl under the car and start playing with the starter. Start hitting the starter with a hammer, which is over here, which is pretty easy to see right now because we have all the panels off the car, and obviously they weren't off the car when it was ready to go down the track. So had to pull a bunch of panels off on the ground, scrambling around looking for tools. What do we need? How are we gonna get it apart? I took a long wrench and a jump box, and I just put power straight to the starter lug, trying not to arc it out all over the car and basically set the thing on fire. Fires up, now it's like, don't turn it off, because now it's running until you do your pass.
So they had, at the time, ran all of the cars from that first run that we were supposed to be in, and there was like a, I don't know, top fuel car or something next to me that they were, not top fuel, but some sort of rail dragster, and then just us sitting in the staging lane, we begged them and pleaded to see if we can get in right after that rail car so that we don't waste the run and we can actually get some data. And after a little bit of groveling, they let us line up. So no pressure whatsoever. We pull up and we decide we're gonna just run this with no burnout. Again, try and run it on the same A to B tune-up and try and make it down the pass. And that's exactly what it did. Car left beautifully. I think it was like a 1.37 60 foot, and the first pass was an 8.5 at 165 miles an hour, and I couldn't be happier. Car went from never making a clean pass to immediately mid 8-second pass the first time out. Awesome. Came back to the pits, took a look at the data, and time to regroup and figure out what our next plan was gonna be.
So this is the starter that we had in the car during the event. This starter, inside of the solenoid, something went wrong with it where it was no longer transferring power from this side over to this side, which is where this tail for the starter usually attaches to. Because of the way that this failed and the fact that we didn't have another one or any way to fix this at the track other than to just get through the day, I ended up taking this tail and I moved it from the normal side, which is the switch start, where the guy in the car basically hits the button, or any normal person, and the starter just works. And I moved it to this side, which created a situation where someone in the car has to hit the starter button, and within a very short period of time, maybe a half a second, you have to simultaneously hit the wire up top onto something to get the starter to start spinning. Otherwise, the car basically freaks out and says, nope, not starting, not doing anything, and it'll just sit there and crank.
All right, so for our second pass, we had originally planned on running low boost the first pass and then full boost the second pass. No nitrous on either of them. We did have nitrous set up with a single wet shot that we were originally planning on using if we needed to get the car out of the hole faster, but just for our initial couple passes, we're trying to keep that variable out of the system. Well, after looking at the data logs from the first run, we saw that even at the moderate boost levels that we were running, our air temps were already kind of climbing up. Car has a custom air-to-air intercooler that we set up, has tons of flow, but it does have some limitations. We can't get the air temp below ambient. We made a bit of a change as far as what we were gonna do, and instead we went up a little bit with boost, but then we decided to not spray nitrous off the line, but to ramp it in and then run a small shot down the entire track. At like 169 miles an hour, and again, couldn't be happier. Trans was doing what it's supposed to, motor sounded great, came back to the track, to the pits, and took a look at the data and decided what our next plan was. Lined up for our third pass, and this time we were gonna run it with a little bit more power, still gonna be spraying the nitrous, made a couple tweaks to the calibration, and we were gonna do a little bit bigger of burnout. Do a halfway John 4 style burnout, and car just sounded wild. When it hit the limiter, it sounded like it was running a bit higher RPM than I was intending on. And I pedaled it a couple times and it stalled. And if you don't remember, I don't have a functioning starter motor without my starter crew. So immediately freaking out because I'm at the staging lanes. I got a guy to the right. Our car isn't running. So I call over the guys and someone had to pop the hood, jump start the car as I'm hitting the button. I got to go back and set it to whatever settings it needed to be to make the pass, go pull up and make the pass. And I could already tell something wasn't right. And I got out of it. I think we ended up coasting down the track at like a 14-something quarter mile. Got back to the pits and immediately pulled the logs, started looking at data.
2 or 3 minutes after, we're getting ready to send the car back out, and one of my other guys, Mike, looks over at the car and says, hey, did you guys let all the air out of the left rear tire? Because it's pretty flat, almost like there's no air in it. One guy had a patch plug kit. We're just concerned about using a plug patch on a bias ply tire, especially when we're doing burnouts and drag passes. Is it going to rip the plug out? Are we going to go from having a little pinhole that leaks slowly down to something that's going to blow out, potentially send the car into the wall? So we determined to just let it rip for the rest of the day and just had to keep topping up the air pressure at the line right before the runs.
All right, so lined up for the 4th attempt. Obviously we had to air up the tires right before we made the pass, pull out into the burnout box. This time we backed down on the burnout, just tried to keep it, you know, steady and reasonable. And lined up, and this thing just took off like a bat out of hell. I felt that this was gonna be a number. I just didn't know how quick it was gonna be. Pulled around, got my time slip, and I saw that 7-second time slip, and it was like, oh man, all the struggles, all the headaches leading up to the event, all the issues as far as swapping around parts and everyone just coming together, that's where it all came and paid off. I got back to the pits and everyone went crazy. All the guys from the shop came up to me, you know, hugs and high fives and everything. It was just an awesome moment. So to go out and take pretty much a fresh build and go 7s with it the first day out was, you know, the best thing that I can ask for. Last run, it was getting dark. We knew we had one more run to make. The track temps were getting colder. Great for power, but not so good for traction. We only needed one more 10th to go for the overall record of these, you know, G80, G82 platforms. So got about midway down the track and something weird happened. The car hesitated on one of the shifts, but right before it kind of got sideways, and I got back in it, and we ended up still running at 8.1 at 172. When I pulled off the end of the track to go down the return road, it made some funky noise and it was clicking as I was making the turn. So whether that was our last run or not, the car decided it was our last run at that point because we didn't have spares to change anything and it was already time to go home. Got back to the pits, and I also noticed that we had some sort of ticking going on. Long story short, we ended up blowing out part of the header gasket. Wanted to say a big thanks to all of our sponsors. First and foremost, Ben Calibration. These guys are rock stars. They came out and they gave us some trackside support, and we got to hang out and set some records together. They've been doing this for many years with us on both customer cars and our personal cars, and providing top level calibration support. MHD Tuning, for providing us an excellent flash tool to be able to do whatever we need with the stock ECU side. With the MHD Plus and full reflex integration, we have the best tuning solution to check all the boxes for what we need to do on these cars. Doc Race for providing us badass turbo hardware. We combined it with our intercooler setup, piping, and a custom manifold. But as far as the header, downpipe, all the hot side parts, awesome fabrication, pure transmission or pure drivetrain solutions for providing us bomb-proof transmission and transfer case solution that has already proven to be able to take the paces that we're running it through. And then last but not least, Project Gamma for setting us up with a nice carbon fiber headlight delete here so that we don't have to look like we're parting out the car and going down the track. Also wanted to shout out both Bimmers United and Chris Miller Productions. They ran a parallel event for Bimmers vs. the World, and they did an excellent job running the event and getting us out on the track. What's next for the car? Basically, we've been going through, and immediately after the event, car came off the trailer, ripped the diff out, took a look at stuff, saw some things that went wrong. We put a new fresh diff, and we put a different set of axles in from Titan Motorsports this time. Then we started on the weight reduction. Car obviously was a full interior car, but the plan is that this thing is going straight into a full cage drag car. So the next step in between is anything that's easily removable for this time out, at least for the remainder of the season, try and get out at least a couple 100 pounds. So in addition to the weight reduction, we're also trying to clean up some of the aero. Car was missing a bunch of under panels, wheel wells, etc. So we're gonna try and make whatever panels we need, get that sorted. The goal for the car is to get it out there and try and go and take this overall record for fastest BMW. Last but not least, the nitrous. We originally had the nitrous as a direct port setup when we had that fiery explosion video early on. If you haven't seen it, check it out. But since then, we put a single nozzle that we were originally planning on just running for spool. Now that we're running it all the time again, we're gonna go back to the direct port. That way we have the good distribution from a direct port system. And then we also have the ability to go up in nitrous size, because if we're not gonna just run a 50 or 75 shot, now we can run a 150, a 225, you name it. More nitrous, more power, baby. So for the next event, the goal is, again, try and hit a rental, or if there's some sort of drag day. I got a little bit of wrench in the mix because I'm expecting a new baby any day. So I'm sure my wife's gonna love it if I just go out drag racing the minute that my son is born, but we'll work on that. That sounds like that's a me problem, not a you problem. So in the meantime, stay tuned, follow us on Instagram, Facebook, like and subscribe, and check out our YouTube channel for any upcoming videos. And we'll see you at the next one. Drive fast and take chances. My goldfish brain flaked on where we were starting with it. So, okay. Taste of the tism.
Good. I'll keep that in the video too.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think everyone that does this for a living has a touch of the tism. Just a little bit more than that, like Salt Bay style. Anyway.
That's the ending of the video.
There you
right
go.
There.